extreme weather we're facing right now in the Northeast, from droughts and wildfires actually across the country, now Hurricane Sandy, make the case that man-made global warming is not only real, it's having an effect right now. U.S. Congressman Ed Markey is the top Democrat on the Natural Resources Committee in the Congress and senior member of the Energy and Commerce Committee. And Michael Oppenheimer is a professor of geosciences and international affairs at Princeton University. I want to start with Professor Oppenheimer. Simply put, when you look at Hurricane Sandy, which is a funny name for something hitting our beaches and causing such havoc, do you see climate change, man-made climate change, in action, in the face?
This is definitely the kind of thing we expect to see more of in the future. But in addition, while global warming didn't cause Hurricane Sandy, it almost surely made the impact worse. And that's because sea level has been rising for the last century due to global warming. And when this huge storm came along, at high tide, with a full moon, with this huge fetch of water gathered up over the Atlantic Ocean, it was pushing on a sea level which was higher than it would otherwise have been, and it was able to push the water further and further inland. I live in downtown Manhattan. I saw the damage, and I can tell you that this situation is only going to get worse over this century and over the coming years and decades, because global warming will continue to cause sea level to rise and probably cause such storms to become more intense until we reduce the emissions of the greenhouse gases that are causing the problem.
In the real world, not the parallel universe of the people in the far out, the Luddites, whoever you call them, Mayor Bloomberg is one of the most practical politicians in the world. He's up there trying to retrofit the subways, thinking about the future in this water level thing, Congressman.
Absolutely. This has real-world impacts on ordinary people. As the professor just said, the ocean is now much hotter. As a result, it's much higher. And the Arctic is melting, and that's changing the jet stream, which would have ordinarily put this storm off to sea. So as a result, there is an extreme weather tax now. It's going to be billions and billions of dollars. And while Mitt Romney is concerned about the Koch brothers, the average American right now is worried about global warming, worried about climate change, worried about the impact on their family.
Who are these people, Professor, who fight you? Who are these people that write op-ed pieces in the Wall Street Journal with such assurance that this is all bogus science? Who are they? Phonies? Are they quacks? Or what's their argument?
There are different motivations. Some people don't want to hear about global warming because it's bad news, and there's enough bad news in the world, and everybody has plenty to worry about anyway. Some people don't want to hear about it because it gets in the way of their economic interests. Those would be the fossil fuel companies, for instance. And some people are just generally skeptical and don't like experts. And frankly, I don't like experts all the time myself either. But these are the facts. Every Academy of Science of every major country in the world has said this is happening. It's happening now. It's only going to get worse until we start taking actions to stem the emissions that are causing the problem. But in the meantime, this stuff is going to be happening even if we get emissions under control for some time, for decades. So we have to learn how to adapt better, how to prepare for such potential disasters, how to mitigate their damages.
We don't have any high ground to go to in this world. We have 6 billion people living on this planet. There's no other planet to go to if the atmosphere begins to be destructive of our living here. But politics is about every 2 years, every 4 years. How do you run a political argument that has to be paid off within the next couple of years? You have to win the argument. Who's willing to vote for somebody who's willing to do something about climate change?
Well, this frames the election for next Tuesday very well. It's Mother Nature versus the Koch brothers.
Who are the Koch brothers? Explain.
The Koch brothers are the single largest funders of this Republican
oil and gas.
The oil and gas industry, the coal industry. They are funding Mitt Romney and the Republicans across this country. They want Romney in because here's what Romney is promising. One, he's going to do away with the tax breaks for wind energy, but keep it for oil. He is going to do away with the fuel economy standards that increase the efficiency of the vehicles we drive up to 55 miles per gallon, backing out 6 billion metric tons of CO2. That's what Obama wants to do. Back out 3 million barrels of oil per day from the Persian Gulf, all the oil we import. The Koch brothers want Romney, and Romney has promised to roll back those fuel economy standards. It endangers the planet, and it's going to endanger young men and women who are going to have to go over to the Middle East to import the oil from there rather than backing it up.
Well, Professor Oppenheimer, back in the 60s, we called such people pigs. Pigs. No, really, they don't care about the planet. They don't care about the destruction of war. All they want is what they got, their stuff, and they want more of it. Is that what we're facing here? Just greed of people? I'm not talking about the guy working in a coal mine. That's hard work. I'm talking about people who won't listen to you, won't listen to science because they want more stuff.
Listen, Chris, I'm not into name calling here. I think
Well,
we've got fine, that's your job, not mine.
No.
We have a serious job to do. The administration has actually started to put in regulations to reduce emissions. U.S. emissions are actually down modestly. We have a long way to go. We're going to have to do this by all getting together and acting cooperatively. We have to do in our own lives what we can, get those energy-efficient appliances in cars. We have to encourage the government to start passing tighter regulations to reduce emissions, and we have to also be prepared to deal with some of the climate change that's inevitable by better planning and organization around the towns and communities we live in. Everybody has to get involved.
Congressman Mark, I've known you forever. You're a friend of mine. I watch you fight this fight. I watch the goodwill and the good effort to fight these people. But on the other side of the fight, it's not just always the other side of the aisle. It's not always Republicans. Huge amounts of money being paid to congressmen and women running for re-election that says, hands off. Don't push this thing, right?
Well, Mitt Romney was a climate science believer when he was the governor of Massachusetts. No Republican can be nominated to run for president of the United States if they say they believe in climate science. Having a conversation with that Mitt Romney would be like having a conversation with an empty chair, that governor that we had. He cannot run. It's a party controlled by these interests that want to kill fuel economy standards, wind, solar, geothermal, biomass, all the things that young people in our country know we have to invest in if we are going to avoid the most catastrophic consequences. There is no emergency room for a planet. We have to put in place the preventative measures, as the professor just said, to protect against that danger.
Someday they'll remember the people that didn't do anything. Anyway, thank you, as Congressman Ed Markey. Thank you, Professor Michael Oppenheimer.